Hi everyone, myself Rakshita BK, 4th SEM ECE, studying in Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering. Today I am going to discuss about the applications of amplitude modulation in long distance radio communication system. Next, let we see the introduction to amplitude modulation. Amplitude modulation is a process by which the wave signal is transmitted by modulating the amplitude of the signal. It is often called amplitude modulation and it's commonly used in transmitting a piece of information through a radio carrier wave. Amplitude modulation is mostly used in the form of electronic communication. Amplitude modulation is a process that varies the amplitude of an RF carrier signal according to the amplitude of the message signal and the carrier signal. Next, let we see the amplitude modulation. Amplitude modulation is a process by which the wave signal is transmitted by modulating the amplitude of the signal. It is often called amplitude modulation and it's commonly used in transmitting a piece of information through a radio carrier wave. Next, let we see the advantages of amplitude modulation. The cost of amplitude modulation is low. They travel a long distance and cover a wider. It requires a simple transmitter and receiver. Transmission and reception of an audio signals are less. Required carrier frequency is low. Disadvantages of amplitude modulation. Amplitude modulated signals are highly susceptible to peripheral noises. Receivers of these signals find it difficult to distinguish between signals and noises. The quality of the audio signals is of poor. The bandwidth of the modulated signals is twice the frequency of the signal wave. Now I'm going to discuss about radio communication. Radio communication or communication by radio means the transmission by radio of writing, signs, signal, pictures and sound of all kinds including all apparatures and services. Amongst other things, the receipt, forwarding and delivering of communications incidental to such transmissions. Next, let me see the applications of amplitude modulation in radio communication system. Amplitude modulation is mostly used in the form of electronic communication. Currently, this technique is used in many areas of communications, such as in portable of two-wave radios, citizens by band radios, VHF aircraft radios, and in modern form. Hairband radio. Amplitude modulation is used in VHF transmissions for many airborne applications such as ground-to-air radio communications or two-wave radio links for ground staff. Broadcast transmission. Amplitude modulation is used in broadcasting transmission over the short, medium, and long wave bands. Since amplitude modulation is easy to demodulate, radio receivers from amplitude modulations are therefore easier and cheaper too. Single sideband. Amplitude modulation in this form is used for HF radio links or point-to-point HF links. Amplitude modulations use a lower bandwidth and provides more effective use of the transmitted power. Next, aviation communication. AM is used in aircraft communications such as air traffic control and pilot-to-pilot communications. The amplitude modulation technique allows for reliable transmissions over long distances and provides sufficient audio quality for voice communication in aviation. Citizens band radio. CB radio is a form of two-wave radio communications commonly used by individuals for short-range and long-distance communication. Amplitude modulation is employed in CB radios to transmit voice signals over the distinct frequency band. Block diagram of amplitude modulation transmission. Here, the radio frequency carrier wave and electrical image of sound formed by microphone is entered into amplitude modulation. Amplitude modulated carrier wave, the AM radio signals that is transmitted to the transmitter. From the transmitter, it is going to amplitude modulation transmission tower. From the tower, it is transmitting to the antenna. If electrical charge is accelerated up and down, the conducting tower, that is electromagnetic waves, will be radiated at the frequency of the driving signals in general. The frequency must above the 100 kilohertz to be practical. From these transmitting antenna, it is going to a receiver antenna, that is receiver end of the radio. Next, how the facilitation of transmission of signals over long distances. The modulation signals could be an audio signal from a microphone, a video signal from a video camera, or a digital signal from a computer that represents a sequence of binary digits known as distinct. The modulation signals has a lower frequency than the carrier. The goal of modulation is to imprint information on carrier wave, which then transmits into different destination. The modulated carrier is broadcast through space as a radio wave to a radio receiver in radio communication. Amplitude modulation is a modulation technique used in electronic communication, most notably for a radio wave. Transmission of messages. The amplitude signal strength of the carrier wave is altered in proportion to that of the message signal, such as an audio signal, in amplitude modulation, in contrast to angle modulation, which changes the carrier wave's frequency or phase, as in frequency modulation or phase modulation. Amplitude modulation signals are simple to demodulate, and radio receivers are capable of doing so. Because amplitude modulation signals are less sophisticated and more cost effective, they are employed for long distance transmission. Next, conclusion. In amplitude modulation, the carrier frequency is constant. On the other hand, the value of the carrier amplitude varies depending on the amplitude, the demodulating signal. The envelope of the modulated signal is in the same shape as modulating signal. Thank you.